Hey, how's it going, YouTube? How y'all doing today? Got the 7 heifers over there. They're still kind of just wandering around on their own. I brought them up front to get breakfast today, and they did eat out of the feed bin. Look at this side of the field right here. This over up to here, about halfway, about a third of the way, is what I'm gonna be plowing up first. Cause look at these weeds. This is that mare's tail that I'm talking about. It's a horsetail, but this plant right here, when it grows, it's gonna get about see how it's about there right now? It's gonna get like up here. Maybe it's gonna get to like 2 feet tall. And you see how it's already everywhere. This is what I mean. And so pretty soon, this mare's tail right here, it's gonna be the only thing growing here. That mare's tail is gonna bolt straight up into the air, and it's gonna be everywhere. It's just gonna cover the entire field. And so I'm gonna plow this field up before that mare's tail has a chance to go to seed. My sweet plow heads are gonna be here tomorrow, or excuse me, on the 18th. I don't know, is that tomorrow? Maybe. My sweet plow heads are gonna be here on the 18th, and here's some sunflower right here. But same thing with the sunflower. Once the sunflower gets established and then it goes to seed, it drops seed everywhere. And then soon the only thing growing on this field will be a sunflower and mare's tail. You see this horsetail, it's everywhere. But this is what I mean by it's practically all that's growing on this third of the field, half of the field. And so I'm going to get this side of the field situated first. My big thing is that when I work the field, I always look at the weather first. Because if the weather says it's going to be dry, I don't work the field. I wait. I've seen a lot of people, like when I drive around, you know, I see a lot of farms, and I see a lot of people who just plowed their ground early, and 3 months later they'll have to plow it again. Every month they'll have to just keep plowing it to keep the weeds off it. They'll have to run by and spray it, and that's just a waste of that's a waste of resources and a waste of good time, in my belief. I always look at the weather first, and so when the weather says it's go time, that's when I work the field. I've had all sorts of situations happen before in my life. I remember, like, there were even times where I had a whole bunch of organic matter put into one spot. I put a whole bunch of compost in, and this was actually just me working a small garden. But I had a whole bunch of leaf litter compost that I had just put together, and I threw it on the ground, and I planted in it. And the water penetrated that compost so fast, and it hit the hard pan underneath it and pulled, and it drowned my entire garden. I've had seed get pushed up out of the ground. I've had seed not germinate because it's too, I mean, there's all sorts of things that can happen, right? And so the weather is extremely important. I always look at the weather first. And so well, if I need to, I'll herbicide this. I'll herbicide it instead of plowing it. But I'm gonna see what's going on. If I'm gonna plow this field, I need to get about 2 inches of rain on it relatively, like quickly, like within I need about 1.5 to 2 inches of rain dumped on the field all at once for the ground to recompact. And so if there is a rain event like that that's about to happen, I'm able to plow this field. But if it looks like it's going to be a little bit drier, if it looks like the rain is kind of going to let up a little bit, I'm going to herbicide this. Because if I herbicide it, I don't need to plow it. You know, I could just do a no-till. I could just herbicide the whole field and go no-till. And that would keep the moisture in the soil while also clearing the plant vegetation off the top of it, so that I can plant on it. So I can plant on the field. But I'm going to see what's going to happen The sorghum Sudan grass up front is doing real good. It's just at about 3 weeks old now, and it's about 2 feet tall. Right now it's looking like at about the 25 to 30 day mark it'll be at about that 3 foot tall, so I'll be able to cut it at about 25 to 30 days. So here in about 5 to 10 days I'll be able to cut it, and so I'll have plenty of forage for these animals to eat. And when I get that forage in front of them, that's a good time for me, or when I have forage available to harvest to feed these cattle, that's a good time to look for a window of opportunity to start plowing up this field. But I need the weather. The weather is extremely important. I've seen people who I don't know why they'll do this, but they'll plow their soil up like real early, and then they'll leave it fallow for like 3-4 months, and then the next thing, I mean, what happens is that it just gets covered in weeds, and so they're just gonna have to plow it again. And it's like, why not just plow it? I don't know. You know, I would think that it's better to just plow it one time than to plow it 2-3 times just to get one planting in. But I mean, that's just me, right? I'm gonna plow it right before the rain event, and I'm going to see where the field reestablishes itself. And any place that the field reestablishes itself, I'm just gonna go over it with an herbicide spray and just spray glyphosate on it. Because the thing that I saw from up front is that if I plow the soil real hard and I get those big clods of soil out of the ground, and I turn the soil over, and then it dumps rain, it'll push the soil back together. And so when it pushes the soil back together, the plants will just keep on growing. And so for the field back here, I'm gonna plow the soil, and then I'm gonna see how the rain pushes the field back together. And anywhere that the vegetation's coming back, I'm just gonna spray it with glyphosate and just get rid of it, and then I'm gonna drill on top of it. If our weather is looking like it's gonna be like the rain's already the rain has kind of just it ain't looking like we're gonna get a 1.5 to 2 inches of rain, I'll just have to glyphosate the whole field. But I'm gonna see what happens. I'm gonna look at the weather first, because the weather is the #1 thing. If I don't have any rain forecasted, I'm not gonna plant anything. If I have a lot of rain forecasted, that's a good time to plow. If I have some rain forecasted, that's a good time to seed. And so, depending on what happens with the weather, is going to be what I essentially make my next move on, I guess. I have to look at the weather first, and then I'll make my decision. I'm gonna see what the weather forecast looks like, and then I'm gonna see what happens. Yeah, because I mean, if there's 0 rain forecasted, I'm not gonna plow anything, right? I'm not gonna drill anything. I'm just gonna leave the grass as is and let the cattle eat as much of it as it can before it dies. And so yep, but I mean, we're gonna get rain in June. I know we are. We always do. I mean, if there was a drought in June that went all the way through the summer here in Texas, that would be real bad. I ain't personally ever seen that before. It rains here in June. It usually starts getting hot here around July, and then it stays hot through August. And so, yep. But yep. The plan is to get the pearl millet in the ground, and I'm gonna get pearl millet going over here on this field, so that I have something growing in the summertime. And this sorghum Sudan grass, I really like it. I'll probably plant sorghum Sudan grass my entire life. That sucker grows fast. If it keeps growing like this, I'll be able to cut it once every 30 days until it stops growing. Well, I mean, but the weather, I mean, the weather's gonna be what I probably I mean, I mean, who knows? It depends on the weather. We got to get some rain in the summer for it to keep growing. But if I could get, I'll probably, you know, this sorghum Sudan grass, I'll probably get three cuttings on it, maybe even 4, depending on how things go. But the 3rd and the 4th cutting, they may not be that good, right? So I'll have to see. Depends on how much rain there is. But yep, that sorghum Sudan grass is growing real good. These animals, they looking pretty good. You see this guy right here? This is one of my bigger animals. He probably be about, I would say he close to that 7 weight. But yep. The animals got plenty of grass here. There's a lot of grass on this field. They walk around and eat it all day. And I'm gonna have to plow this field up here pretty soon to plant them some new grass. And I'm gonna plant them a real, oh man. Well, I'm supposed to be getting the cross fence put up sometime about next week, about this week to next week. And so when that cross fence gets put up, I'll have because my big thing is I don't want to drill this backfield with pearl millet and then the cattle eat it when it's real small, when it's like that big, and then they end up bloating real bad on it. They end up getting way too much protein and end up bloating on it. And so that's the big thing I want to avoid, especially in the summertime when it gets warm outside. I don't want these animals bloating. I've got the bloat situated as of right now, and I want to keep it that way. The little heifer calves, there's 2 of them right there that I brought in yesterday, the black Angus heifer calves. There's 1 right there. I don't know where the other 4 are. There's 2 right there. But these black Angus heifer calves, oh, there's another one over there. But these black Angus heifer calves are doing real good. They started eating. I actually cut them loose last night because I put grain in front of them. And I took a look at how much they were eating. I would check on them about every 5 hours or so, 3, 4, 5 hours. And they ate 2% of their body weight within 12 hours of being here. And so I was like, you know what? If they're going to eat that much grain, I need to cut them loose so that they can get some forage in them to help with their bowel movements. I cut them loose, and they went right to eating grass. And so these little heifer calves, they I think what happened when they first got here, I was like, they looked like they shrank. They had some pretty severe shrink on them. And I think that the reason that they shrunk so bad, that they had such bad shrink, was because when they were on that trailer and I was hauling them across the highway for about an hour and a half, they were probably freaking out. They completely emptied their bowels. I mean, there was probably an inch of manure and urine in the trailer. They just completely emptied their gut. I mean, they were it's a 16-foot trailer, and there's 7 of these heifer calves in it, of these 340-pound heifer calves in it, and they just completely covered it in manure and urine. I mean, just completely covered the bottom of it. And so they completely emptied their excrement. They just completely emptied their waste. And I'm guessing that they did that because they were freaking out. And so they were kind of sucked in when I brought them in. And then but once I got them fed and once I got them that electrolyte solution, they swelled up again immediately. They immediately swelled back up, and they're looking a lot better. They look like they honestly put on 10 pounds overnight. And so that's very good. And they're not freaking out or anything. They're eating grass, they're eating grain. Everything's going good. Everything is going good. I still got a lot of grass. The cattle still got plenty of grass to go around and eat. And yep. And then I still got a lot of grass up front that I'm going to be cutting for these animals. But this grass is starting to die back. I can tell it's starting to get too hot for this ryegrass. And so, in all honesty, if I get a chance to, I may just plow the whole thing under. I may just plow the whole thing under and start dumping Sudan grass in front of these animals for them to eat. That sorghum Sudan grass, I may just start dumping that stuff out in front of them for the. I may just start dumping that stuff out in front of these animals for them to eat, and then just plow this whole thing back up. The moment I get a chance, plow the whole thing up, get some rain on it before it's gonna rain, or I may just have to glyphosate the entire thing. I'll have to see. And I got to get this backfield planted with a hot season grass, or all I'm gonna be growing. My hot season grass is gonna be horsetail and sunflowers. So I got to get all that plowed over, and I got to get some seed in here. And these animals, well, I got to figure out what I'm gonna do. My calves are starting to get heavy, and they're starting to turn into yearlings. Here in about 2 months, they'll be a yearling. And well, this calf right here. Okay, so this calf right here, I brought him in at 175 pounds, 180 pounds. This is the black white face right here. And I brought him in, and in about August or September. So this guy right here, this is an 8 to 9 month old calf. And this guy right here, he's about I would say he's close to 500 pounds. And so these animals, they almost always all put on about the same amount of weight. Granted that they're not a miniature or something like that going on. Almost all of my calves, they'll hit about seven weight. Some of them maybe they be a little bit bigger, 7.5 weight at a year old. And this is about what an 8-9 month old calf looks like. He's not implanted or anything, and he's just on grass and with a little bit of grain. And so yep, this is about what a 500 pound animal looks like. Oh, he may be maybe about 475, something like that, 450. It's about what a 375 pound animal looks like right here. Maybe a little bit heavier. But yep, these animals, they're gonna be right at about a 7.5 weight. A majority of them are gonna be at about 7.5 at about a year old. And that's fine by me. I really thought about it, and I was like, man, you know, if I doubled their feed, and if I fed them maybe if I fed them like an extra 50 pounds of just straight corn a day, you know, I could make them get up to like 950. I could maybe put an extra 200 pounds on them. But that ain't really worth it to me. That'd be yep, I'd have to put a lot of extra money in to do that. And that just, I mean, I ain't gonna do that, right? That ain't a good investment for me. I would rather keep my, if I can raise animals to a 7.5 weight, by a year old, at 60 cents per pound of gain, 65 cents per pound of gain, that's good. You know what I'm saying? Like I ain't gonna really, I ain't really willing to push my cost of gains up to 90 cents a pound to put an extra few pounds on the animals, you know. And so it's fine. I mean, if I have a whole lot of hay and I can sell the hay and make some good money, and maybe then I'll change my mind, and I'll take the money that I'm growing from my hay and buy grain and feed these animals some extra grain. At that point, I may change my mind. I may change my plans. But as of right now, with what I got going on, it just makes the most sense for me. But 750 at a year old, it ain't bad. It's perfectly fine. These animals, they're not like starving or anything. They look pretty good, and so that's fine by me, right? And so yep. All right, that's it for me today, YouTube. Y'all have a good one.